The air inside the Galactic Tribunal was thick and heavy. Every being present could feel the weight of Valoran's words. What he spoke of wasn't myth or rumor anymore, it was truth. He stood under the white light, calm but tired. His silver eyes looked distant, as if he was staring through time itself. The judges watched him closely. "Tell us," Judge Turkin said softly. "Tell us how the divine fell." Valoran nodded slowly. His voice was quiet, but every word carried strength. "The war reached its final stage," he began. "The divine coalition gathered what remained of their strength. They called upon their last hope, the Seraph Lords, beings worshipped by millions. They were said to be the purest forms of life, made from light and energy. They believed themselves eternal." The tribunal hall grew still. "The Seraph Lords called upon every fleet," Valoran continued. "Every surviving world was told to rise in defense of divinity. They promised the end of the human storm, but even then their voices shook." He paused, his hands pressing gently against the glowing table. They were afraid. The Battle of Eclipsera was the largest gathering of divine power ever seen. 1,000 capital ships surrounded the Seraph Lord's citadel, a giant ring of light built around a burning star. Valoran watched the battle from the Erythian observation ship far outside the system. His duty was to record, nothing more. He remembered the sight clearly. "The citadel shone like a sun," he said. "Its shields glimmered brighter than anything we had seen. The divine believed it would be their victory." But then shadows arrived. From the darkness of deep space came hundreds of human ships, black, silent, and fast. They didn't come in formation. They came like waves. Each ship carried a name carved in white letters: Hope's Fury, Dawnbreaker, The Promise, Silent Heaven, New Terra. And leading them all was the massive Vengeance of Sol, its hull glowing faintly blue as if lit by the memory of a dying sun. "They didn't send a warning," Valoran said. "They didn't ask for surrender. They just came." The divine opened fire first. Thousands of beams, each strong enough to destroy a planet, shot through space. They turned darkness into day, but the human ships moved with impossible precision. Their shields shimmered like water, bending the beams away. When the first human ship fired back, the divine fleet realized their fate. Their weapons tore reality, Valoran said quietly. They were not bombs or lasers. It was as if the humans had learned to command gravity itself. One after another, the divine ships began to fall. Their glowing shields collapsed like glass under a hammer. Still, the Seraph Lords did not retreat. They appeared in person, giant beings of light with wings of fire descending from their citadel. Their voices echoed across the galaxy. "We are eternal. We are divine. You cannot destroy light." But humanity answered with silence. The Vengeance of Sol turned its massive cannons toward the citadel. Valoran's voice trembled slightly. The next moment, the citadel was gone. A star dimmed where it once shone. The divine were no longer untouchable. For the first time in history, gods fell before mortals. The Seraph Lords fought desperately. They wielded energy that could bend time and space, but the humans kept advancing. Their ships were damaged, their fleets burned, but they did not stop. They fought not for glory, Valoran said. They fought for every name written on their ships, for every world that had burned. He remembered one moment clearly, the last stand of Seraph Lord Althira, the strongest of them all. Her voice was said to calm suns and lift armies. When she saw her citadel crumble, she turned her power against the humans. Entire ships vanished in her light. But even then, humanity didn't stop. The Vengeance of Sol moved forward, Valoran said. Even broken, even burning, it pushed closer. When the flagship reached the Seraph, it sent a message across all frequencies. Every being in the galaxy heard it. You called yourselves gods. We call you accountable. Then the Vengeance fired one final blast. A beam of white light cut across the stars. The Seraph Lord disappeared, and her radiance faded from the skies. The eternal light of the divine went out. Inside the tribunal, not one voice dared to break the silence. Valoran's own voice was almost a whisper. After that, the war was over, he said. The divine surrendered. Some tried to flee to hidden worlds, but the humans did not chase them. They did not conquer. They simply left. He took a long breath. The galaxy thought the humans would take the throne. But they didn't. They refused it. Instead, the human fleet sent a single message to all surviving worlds. No more gods. No more masters. Only peace. Then they disappeared into deep space. Valoran's hands trembled slightly as he spoke the next part. We thought it was finished. But when we reached the ruins of the citadel, we found something strange. He looked up at the judges. Inside the broken halls, there were humans, alive. They had rescued divine civilians, even those who had fought against them. They were tending to the wounded. The aliens in the hall murmured softly. Yes, Valoran said, his tone full of awe. They healed their enemies. They brought food, medicine, and water to those who once destroyed their world. I asked one of them why. He paused, remembering. The soldier looked at me and said, "Because someone must stop the cycle." He smiled faintly. That was when I realized. Humanity's greatest strength was not rage. It was mercy. The tribunal was quiet for a long time. Judge Tricon's metallic body shifted as he finally spoke. And what became of the Seraph Lords? Valoran's eyes dimmed. They were gone. All but one. A soft light filled the chamber as the Erythian historian activated a small projection. It showed a being of light, weak and flickering, sitting on a broken throne. This was the last Seraph Lord, Caelrin, Valoran explained. He surrendered to the humans. He expected execution, but instead Admiral Kane spoke to him. The tribunal leaned forward. What did he say? Tricon asked. Valoran's voice lowered. He said, "You wanted to guide the stars. Then learn what it means to walk among them." The humans left Caelrin alive. They let him live among mortals. For the rest of his life, he traveled the galaxy teaching peace, not divinity. Valoran continued, his tone softer now. After the fall, a great silence covered the galaxy. No one dared to claim godhood again. Temples turned into schools. Thrones turned into gardens. The galaxy began to rebuild. And humanity? A small voice asked from the crowd. They vanished, Valoran answered. They returned to their own corner of space. They built no empire, claimed no titles. They left only one monument, built from the remains of the citadel. He touched the control panel. A hologram filled the room, an image of a huge monument floating in space. It was simple, a stone-like tower surrounded by drifting light. On it, words were carved in both human and alien languages. For the lost, for the fallen, for peace bought with tears, and beneath it, a final message. When humans rage, even the divine fall. But when they heal, even the stars rise again. The hall was completely silent now. Even Judge Tricon's metal voice was gone. Valoran bowed his head. That was the end of the divine era. The humans did not destroy our faith. They reminded us what faith truly meant. Not in power, not in control, but in compassion. He looked up again, his silver eyes soft. We called them monsters once. Now I call them teachers. He stepped away from the light, but before leaving, he turned back one last time. You ask how gods fell? He said quietly. They fell the moment they forgot humility. Humanity showed them that truth. Then he paused, his gaze drifting toward the stars shining through the crystal dome. The divine thought themselves eternal. But it was humanity, the fragile, mortal species that changed the course of forever. As Valoran left the chamber, no one spoke. The judges sat frozen, lost in thought. The great historian's words echoed long after he was gone. The divine fell not by hate, but by consequence. And the humans. They never needed to be gods. They only needed to remember who they were. The chamber of the Galactic Tribunal was unusually quiet. Valoran, the Erythian historian, stood in the center, his silver eyes reflecting the soft glow of the crystal dome. His voice was calm, yet every word carried weight. Witness, Judge Tricon said, leaning forward slightly. You have told us how humanity fought. How they brought down the divine. But tell it, why? Why would they unleash such power? Valoran exhaled slowly. That is the truth most do not understand, he said. It was never anger alone. It was sorrow. It was grief. It was the memory of everything lost. The tribunal members leaned in. Even the smallest insectoid delegate seemed to shiver. Humanity had returned from extinction, their homeworld destroyed. Earth had been reduced to ashes by the divine coalition, and billions of human lives were lost. Entire colonies had been erased before the galaxy could even witness their suffering. Yet humans did not immediately fight back. They did not beg the stars for vengeance. For a long time, they simply hid. They rebuilt quietly, gathering knowledge, refining their ships, and preparing, not for war, but for justice. They remembered everything, Valoran said. Every city, every child, every ship. They carried the memory of what was stolen from them. And when the time came, they acted, not recklessly but deliberately. The tribunal murmured softly. Many had only heard rumors of human revenge, stories that made their skin crawl. But Valoran was speaking truth. Their rage, he continued, was precise. It struck only those who had caused harm. Entire fleets, command centers, weapons factories, they were destroyed. Innocent worlds were untouched. In fact, humans often delivered aid to those worlds they liberated. He described one of the first missions in detail. A human fleet entered a system recently occupied by the Divine. The planets below were suffering. Cities were in ruins, food was scarce, and disease spread rapidly. Human soldiers did not fire their weapons immediately. Instead, they delivered food, water, and medicine. They rebuilt hospitals and shelters. Then, only after ensuring civilians were safe, did they strike the Coalition's military installations. Their fury, Valoran said softly, was controlled. It had purpose. It had reason. They did not destroy out of hatred. They destroyed to prevent further harm. Valoran's eyes reflected the images in his mind. I was on the observation ship when the humans liberated the Ravian system, he said. The Coalition had used the worlds there to train young soldiers for war against Earth. When humans arrived, they first saved every civilian. Then they dismantled every training base, every weapon, every war machine. One human captain, a woman known as Commander Alara, stood on the bridge of her ship as the destruction unfolded. Valoran recalled her calm voice over the fleet's communication channels. We do not fight for power. We fight for memory, and we fight to ensure no one suffers as we did. The Erythians watched, unable to look away. Even the most seasoned soldiers among them trembled at the precision, discipline, and mercy of these humans. The truth, Valoran explained, was far stranger than any legend. Humans had not sought revenge to rule or conquer. They sought only balance. Every strike was measured, every fleet dismantled to prevent further war. They did not rejoice when the Divine fell, Valoran said. They mourned. They counted every loss on both sides. And when the last fleet surrendered, they did not celebrate. They simply left. He remembered one moment in particular. After the final battle, he had been sent to document the human fleet as it departed. On board one ship, he had seen a human crew working in silence. They repaired the hulls of their own vessels and tended to wounded aliens, even those who had fought against them. One soldier noticed him. She looked up, silver eyes calm and unyielding. We do not hate you, she said, but we will not allow injustice to continue. Remember that. Valoran turned toward the tribunal, his voice firm. That was their message to the galaxy. They did not wish for empire, tribute, or worship. They wanted justice, balance, and peace. They wanted to show the stars what humanity truly meant. For the first time, a human historian from the Erythian archives whispered to Valoran, They are not monsters, nor gods. They are humans. Valoran nodded. That is the hardest lesson, he said. Humans are fragile. They are mortal. They can die. But they carry within them a fire the Divine cannot understand. They remember, they endure, and when the time comes, they act. The tribunal asked quietly, And what of the survivors of the Divine Coalition? Were they punished? Valoran shook his head. No, humans spared them. Some were given warnings. Some were left with instructions on how to rebuild. The rest were escorted to safe regions of space. Not for mercy alone, but for balance. He explained that humans had sent representatives to every major species, not to demand allegiance, but to tell the story of Earth's fall and humanity's rise. They wanted the galaxy to know, Valoran said, that mortals can be more powerful than gods, not through might, but through reason, discipline, and morality. He described how the galaxy slowly changed. Species once loyal to the Coalition began questioning their leaders. Empires that had grown through fear and dominance began to weaken. Planets that were once war zones were rebuilt, guided by humans' silent example. Valoran paused, and his eyes filled with quiet sorrow. We thought humanity's rage would bring terror. Instead, it brought understanding. Where humans went, they left proof that war did not have to destroy everything. Even the Divine were shown that restraint could be stronger than power. He recounted the story of Silaran, a small world devastated by the Divine's experiments on humans before the war. When humans arrived, they rebuilt schools, hospitals, and communication centers. The survivors wept at the sight of humans repairing the cities they had once feared would never rise again. One of the villagers, Valoran said, asked a human soldier why they cared. The soldier replied, "Because someone must remember, and because someone must show the way." The tribunal listened in silence, amazed. Valoran's testimony painted a picture entirely different from the rumors that had circulated for centuries. Humans had fought with rage, yes, but their rage had rules. It was precise, controlled, and always rooted in justice. They are mortal, Valoran concluded, but in their mortality lies their greatest power. They remember what others forget. They feel what others ignore, and when they act, the universe itself bends to their resolve. A small alien delegate whispered almost to itself, "So this is why the divine fell, not because humans were stronger, but because they were human." Valoran nodded. Yes, mortals who dared to remember. Mortals who dared to act when the stars themselves had forgotten balance. He looked around the tribunal hall one last time. That is why even today species across the galaxy speak of the humans with fear and respect. They are not gods. They are something more. The chamber remained quiet, the audience reflecting on his words. Valoran turned slightly toward the glowing dome as if he could see the distant human ships traveling through the void. "They left a message," he said softly. "A final message for all of us who witnessed their rise." He activated a small crystal projection. Across the holographic stars, the words appeared in both human and alien script. "We are done fighting. Remember the cost of arrogance. Remember the strength of restraint. Remember that when humans rage, even the divine fall. But when we act with justice, the galaxy can endure." Valoran looked back at the tribunal. That is the truth behind their rage. Not hatred, not anger, but memory, justice, and a desire to protect what remains. He lowered his head, his voice trembling with quiet pride and sorrow. "And that is why even now I call them the most powerful species in the galaxy. Not because of firepower, but because they remembered what it meant to be human." The tribunal sat in silence. Even the judges, unshakable and stern, felt the weight of his words. Valoran's final sentence hung in the chamber like a star frozen in time. They do not need to be gods. They only need to remember who they are, and in that they are unstoppable. The galaxy had not seen a human in the great halls of the Galactic Council for more than a century. Stories about Earth were still whispered in quiet voices, stories of dangerous strength, strange courage, and a species that could survive almost anywhere. Some called humans DEATHWORLDers. Others said they were just myths. But now the rumors were about to become real. The Galactic Council had sent an invitation to Earth, an offer of peace, trade, and cooperation. For years, most human leaders ignored it. But when new colonies began to appear close to alien borders, it was time to talk. The people of Earth chose Ambassador Elena Ward as their representative. She was calm, intelligent, and known for her strong belief that peace could be built through respect, not fear. Elena's escort and bodyguard was Captain Mason Drake, a man whose face carried the quiet look of someone who had seen too much war. He didn't talk much, but when he did, people listened. His job was simple: protect the envoy at all costs. Their ship, the Soldawn, entered orbit around ClitheraPrime, the shining capital of the Galactic Council. From space, the planet looked like a marble of silver and blue, its surface covered with floating cities and bright energy lines that glowed in the dark. Inside the ship, Elena stood near the viewport, her hands behind her back. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Mason stood beside her, his eyes scanning the docking instructions on a small wrist device. "Beauty doesn't mean safety," he said quietly. She smiled a little. "You always think someone's out to get us." "That's my job," Mason replied, his voice flat but steady. "And my instinct says they're already planning something." Elena sighed. "Let's hope you're wrong this time." When the ship landed, thousands of aliens filled the arrival platform. Their shapes and colors were a mix of everything the galaxy had to offer. Tall, crystalline beings from the Naboran range, small furred traders from Varkas IV, and floating, jelly-like diplomats from the eastern clouds. All came to see the humans, the mysterious newcomers from the dangerous blue planet. Holo cameras floated above, capturing every moment for news streams across the galaxy. A wide platform stretched ahead, leading to the council hall, a grand structure made of golden crystal that seemed to touch the clouds. Elena stepped forward first, dressed in a formal white uniform with a silver Earth insignia on her chest. Mason walked half a step behind her in a dark armored suit that was clean but practical. His helmet hung from his belt. He wanted the aliens to see his human face to know he wasn't hiding. The crowd murmured as they passed. Some whispered words like DEATHWORLD, Predator, and Dangerous. Others seemed curious, even excited. At the far end of the platform waited the High Speaker of the Council, a tall insectoid being named Varix, whose many eyes blinked as the humans approached. "Welcome, Ambassador Ward of Earth," he said in a calm metallic voice. "The Council greets you." Elena bowed her head slightly. "Thank you, High Speaker. Earth comes in peace," the alien nodded. "We hope so. There are many who still fear your kind." "We understand that," Elena said softly. "Fear is born from stories. I hope today we can replace fear with truth." Mason stood silently behind her, scanning the crowd. His gaze moved like a machine, methodical, slow, but sharp. His eyes caught small reflections, camera lenses, movement on high balconies, energy signatures flickering. Nothing yet, but his instincts told him something was off. He tapped the small device on his wrist. A soft vibration confirmed a faint energy spike in the upper levels. Unknown power source. Hidden pattern. He didn't like it. Inside the grand hall, thousands of delegates filled the seats. Each species had its own section, glowing with their colors and banners. The air hummed with sound, translation devices whispering in many voices. At the center, the council podium rose high, ready for the human envoy to speak. As Elena stepped toward it, Mason's eyes kept moving. His hand rested lightly near his weapon, a sleek sidearm holstered under his jacket, an Earth-designed plasma pistol, smaller than most alien weapons, but far more accurate. He noticed a group of Varan delegates seated near the edge. The Varans were tall, scaled beings known for their powerful military empire. They had never liked humans. One of them, a silver-scaled officer, was watching Mason too closely. Mason's instincts screamed again. Elena began her speech. Her voice carried clearly through the hall. "Members of the Galactic Council, I bring greetings from Earth. Our worlds have been apart for too long. Today we hope to start something new. Understanding, cooperation, and..." Mason's visor flashed a warning. Thermal spike detected. His head turned slightly. On the reflection of a polished pillar, he saw it. A small, floating drone in the upper balcony, its lens aimed directly at the podium. He moved instantly. In less than a second, Mason stepped forward, grabbed Elena by the shoulder, and pushed her down behind the podium. A sharp flash of blue light cut through the air where her head had been. The plasma bolt struck the wall, exploding into shards of light and smoke. Screams filled the hall. The crowd panicked. Alien guards shouted in their languages. Mason drew his sidearm, rolling to his feet, eyes locked on the source of the shot. The assassin drone moved fast, darting between the pillars. Mason fired once. The blue bolt from his weapon cut clean through the air. The drone dodged, but Mason was already adjusting his aim mid-motion. Second shot. Direct hit. The drone exploded in a burst of sparks. The echo of the blast filled the chamber. Fragments rained down as smoke curled upward. Mason scanned again. "Ambassador, stay down," he barked, voice calm but hard. "More could be coming." Elena ducked behind the podium, heart pounding. "Who would attack during a peace talk?" she whispered. "The kind who's afraid of peace," Mason said. He tapped his wrist scanner, detecting two faint, cloaked signals moving away from the balcony. He looked up. "They're running." He turned toward the nearest exit. "Stay here. I'll handle it." "Mason." Elena started, but he was already gone, moving with quick, silent steps through the side door. The corridors behind the council hall were dark and empty. The glow of the main chamber faded behind him as he followed the scanner's signal. His boots made almost no sound on the metallic floor. He rounded a corner, caught a glimpse of movement. Two figures in black cloaks rushed through a service passage. Mason aimed and fired a warning shot. The plasma bolt struck the wall near them, leaving a smoking mark. "Stop," he ordered. One of them turned, hissing in an alien language. Mason didn't stop moving. Another shot fired toward him, bright green energy, but he rolled aside, hitting the floor and returning fire in one smooth motion. His shot hit the attacker's weapon, melting it instantly. The alien fell back, screaming in pain but alive. The second assassin ran deeper into the shadows. Mason sprinted after him, leaping over a fallen crate, his body moving with trained precision. The assassin reached a sealed door and tried to open it, but Mason was faster. He kicked the weapon from the alien's hand, slammed him against the wall, and pressed the barrel of his pistol near his chest. "Who sent you?" Mason asked coldly. The alien hissed, struggling. Its eyes flickered like molten glass. "You shouldn't have come here, human," it whispered. "Your kind brings chaos wherever it walks." "Wrong answer," Mason said, tightening his grip. "Try again." The alien smiled faintly, even in defeat. "You don't know what you've started." Mason's expression didn't change. He tapped his wrist communicator. "Ambassador, area secure. One hostile down. Another captured." Elena's voice came through, steady but shaken. "We're safe for now. Council guards are moving in." "Good," Mason replied. "Tell them not to shoot me this time." He looked at the wounded assassin again. "You picked the wrong target," he said quietly. "Humans don't run." Minutes later, as Council security forces rushed in, Mason stood silently beside his prisoner. The hall behind him was still filled with smoke and confusion. Reporters shouted questions. Delegates argued loudly. The galaxy had just witnessed the first attack on Earth's envoy, and also the calm, deadly precision of her bodyguard. Mason Drake looked toward the sky through the shattered dome above. His expression didn't change, but his thoughts were sharp and focused. Someone had tried to kill his envoy, and he was going to find out who. The council hall was still in chaos. Smoke drifted from the shattered dome, and the air buzzed with fear and noise. Alien guards shouted in many languages, trying to bring order while camera drones hovered wildly, capturing every second of the event that would soon spread across every world. Ambassador Elena Ward sat behind a damaged podium, trying to stay calm as medics checked for injuries. Around her, many alien leaders whispered, their faces pale with shock. This was supposed to be a day of peace and the return of humans to the galactic stage, not an assassination attempt. Mason Drake stood near the fallen assassin, holding his weapon low but ready. His sharp eyes scanned every shadow, every movement. He had been in combat zones before, and this scene, filled with confusion and shouting, felt far too familiar. Council guards approached him cautiously. Their leader, a tall avian alien with bronze feathers, spoke through a translator. "Human soldier, drop your weapon. You are in a restricted area." Mason didn't move. His cold voice replied, "Then you should have kept it safe." Before anyone could react, Elena raised her hand. "Captain Drake is with me," she said firmly. "He just saved hundreds of lives." The alien guard hesitated, then lowered his weapon slightly. Mason gave a short nod but didn't holster his pistol yet. His instincts told him this wasn't over. Hours later, the council hall was sealed off for investigation. The news channels played the footage of the attack again and again. The flash of blue light, Mason's split-second reaction, and his perfect shot that destroyed the drone mid-air. Across the galaxy, people began to talk. Some said humans were reckless and dangerous. Others said they were brave. But everyone agreed on one thing: that bodyguard didn't miss. Inside a secure chamber beneath the council hall, Mason and Elena sat with the captured assassin. The alien was restrained, his cloak removed, revealing scaled green skin and narrow silver eyes. He belonged to the Voran Dominion, one of the most feared empires in the galaxy. Elena looked at the prisoner sadly. "Why?" she asked softly. "Who ordered you to kill me?" The assassin said nothing. His eyes shifted to Mason, who stood in the corner, arms crossed. The silence was heavy. Mason stepped forward slowly. His boots made a quiet sound on the metal floor. He leaned down, his voice low but firm. "You don't have to answer her," he said. "Just answer me. Who sent you?" The alien gave a small smile. "You humans think you are important," he hissed. "The galaxy was fine before you returned. Now you bring chaos again." Mason's eyes narrowed. "That's not an answer." The alien turned his head away, refusing to speak. Mason exhaled slowly. "Then I guess you'd rather talk to your council's investigators." As he turned to leave, the alien whispered, "You won't live long enough to tell anyone. They'll come for you next." Mason stopped but didn't reply. He looked at Elena. "We need to move now." Outside the chamber, the council's security was tightening. The alien guards formed checkpoints, scanning every person who entered or left. Ambassador Elena was escorted to a private suite inside the council tower, supposedly the safest place on the planet. Mason didn't trust it. He checked every room, every exit, every window. Then he placed small round devices on the walls, compact human-made sensors that could detect energy movement, sound changes, or cloaking tech. Elena watched him quietly. You really think they'll try again? Mason nodded once. They failed once. They'll try harder next time. She sat on the edge of the table, folding her hands. You've done this before, haven't you? Protected someone who was hunted. Mason didn't look up. Many times. But never on an alien world. He paused, adjusting one of the sensors. I've learned one thing, though. Assassins don't stop until someone stops them first. Elena sighed. I hate this. I came here to build peace, not to start a war. You didn't start anything, Mason said. They did. And we'll finish it. Quietly. Late that night, Mason stood near the window, looking out at the city lights of CosmicAdventures. The alien capital was beautiful. Towers of glass and crystal, floating bridges and ships drifting like stars through the mist. But beneath the beauty, he could feel tension. Something was wrong. He activated his wrist device and replayed the footage of the attack. Frame by frame, he watched the drone move. Too precise, too clean. It wasn't the work of street assassins. It was military-grade technology. Only a few species could afford something like that. And one of them was the Voran Dominion. Mason's jaw tightened. Of course, he muttered. Suddenly, the scanner on his wrist blinked red. Movement detected. Unknown energy field. He turned sharply toward the door. Ambassador, down. He shouted. Before she could react, the window shattered. A glowing dart flew across the room, hitting the wall near her chair and exploding in a flash of blue sparks. Mason moved like lightning. He pulled Elena behind the table and fired through the window. His shot hit something invisible and sparks flickered. A cloaked figure appeared outside, clinging to the wall. Another shot came, missing him by inches. Mason ducked, rolled, and fired again. 2 precise shots in quick bursts. The attacker screamed and fell, their cloak flickering out as they dropped toward the lower platforms below. Are you hurt? Mason asked quickly. Elena shook her head, breathing fast. No, but how did they? He interrupted, scanning the sensors. They bypassed security. That means someone inside the council helped them. Her eyes widened. An inside job? Yeah, Mason said grimly. And it's not small. They want us gone, and no matter the cost. Within minutes, the building was surrounded by security teams. The alien guards searched the area but found no survivors. The attack had failed again, but it was clear this was not a random act. Mason stood by the wrecked window, looking down at the city lights below. They won't stop, he said softly. Elena joined him. Then what do we do? He turned to her. We stop waiting for them to make the next move. Meaning? She asked carefully. Meaning? Mason said, loading his weapon. We hunt them first. The next morning, the council tried to continue the peace summit, but fear hung in the air like smoke. Many delegates didn't attend. The Voran representatives sat calmly in their seats, pretending innocence. Elena entered the hall, calm but firm. Mason walked behind her, his every step measured. The other delegates looked at them, some with respect, others with suspicion. As Elena stood at the podium again, she spoke clearly. Yesterday, someone tried to silence Earth's voice. But we are still here. We do not fear truth, and we will not answer hate with hate. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The Voran delegate, a tall silver-scaled being named Lord Kelvrax, leaned back in his seat, his expression unreadable. Mason's eyes never left him. He saw Kelvrax glance at one of his guards, a small motion, almost invisible, but Mason noticed. He shifted his stance slightly, one hand near his weapon. Suddenly, a faint reflection in the ceiling caught his eye. Another drone. This one much smaller, slipping between the lights. He moved instantly. Get down, he shouted, grabbing Elena and diving off the stage. A plasma bolt hit the microphone, exploding into bright fire. The audience screamed again. The room filled with panic. Mason fired upward, 3 precise shots. The drone shattered, its metal body raining sparks. Alien guards drew weapons. The Voran soldiers moved too, but Mason was already aiming. Don't even think about it, he warned coldly. Elena rose to her knees, coughing. They tried again, she whispered. Yeah, Mason said, eyes hard. And I caught them again. The council guards rushed in, surrounding the Voran group. Evidence came quickly. The damaged drone carried Voran military codes. The hall erupted in noise. The high speaker ordered the Voran delegates to be detained until an investigation was complete. As the guards dragged them out, Lord Kelvrax turned his cold eyes toward the humans. You think you've won, Deathworlder, he hissed. This is only the beginning. Mason stepped closer, his voice low and steady. Then you'd better send your best next time. Because I don't miss. Kelvrax's expression darkened as he was taken away. Hours later, as the hall emptied, Elena looked at Mason with tired eyes. You saved me again, she said softly. He shook his head. Just doing my job, she smiled faintly. You're more than that, Mason. You're the reason Earth still has a voice here. He didn't reply, but for a moment, a small, quiet pride crossed his face. He looked out toward the alien city, bright, shining, and full of secrets, and whispered to himself, Let them come. I'm ready. The news of the second attack spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Every world, every outpost, every colony was talking about the same thing. Someone tried to kill the human envoy again, and her bodyguard stopped it. Footage from the council hall was shown everywhere. People replayed the moment Mason fired upward, his shots clean and fast, destroying the drone before it could fire a second time. Across many worlds, alien citizens began calling him by a new name, the Silent Protector. But while the galaxy watched the news, Mason Drake was not celebrating. He was already planning his next move. Inside the secured human quarters of the council tower, Ambassador Elena Ward sat at a long glass table, reviewing reports from Earth's intelligence network. Mason stood nearby, checking his weapon for the fourth time that morning. Elena finally looked up. You haven't slept, have you? Sleep gets in the way, Mason replied quietly. She sighed. We can't live like this forever, Mason. There has to be a way to stop them before they try again. That's what I'm going to do, he said, holstering his sidearm. The Varan Dominion won't stop sending assassins unless we show them what humans do when they're hunted. Her brows furrowed. You mean, go after them? Yes, Mason said simply. We know where the last drone was controlled from. The council investigators traced the signal to the lower sectors, old tunnels beneath the city. That's where I'll start. Elena hesitated. It's dangerous down there. He gave a short nod. So am I. An hour later, Mason walked through the underbelly of ClitheraPrime. The shining towers above were long gone. Down here, everything was metal, shadow, and steam. Neon lights flickered weakly between narrow streets. Strange creatures moved in the dark. Outcasts, traitors, smugglers, and worse. He wore his black armor again, the same one from Earth's Special Forces, modified for stealth. His wrist device scanned constantly, searching for traces of Voran tech. The sound of his boots echoed softly. In one hand, he held a small drone, a human recon model no bigger than a coin. It floated silently ahead, feeding data to his visor. Then the scanner beeped. Energy trace detected. Mason slowed his pace. He crouched behind a broken wall, peering around the corner. In the distance, two figures in dark armor were talking beside a storage crate glowing faintly with power. Voran plasma tech. He listened carefully. The translator in his ear whispered the alien speech into English. The next attempt will happen tonight, one said. The Dominion has ordered it. The human envoy must not speak again. The other replied, and the bodyguard? Leave that one to the hunters. They brought a special team from Voran Prime. Professional killers. Not even a human can stop them all. Mason's jaw tightened. We'll see about that, he thought. He raised his weapon, adjusted the sight, and fired twice. Both Voran soldiers fell before they could react. Clean, silent shots to disable, not kill. Mason moved fast, checking the crate. Inside, he found more assassin drones, their energy cores still charging. He took a small data chip from one and inserted it into his wrist device. The hologram flashed. Coordinates appeared. Got you, he murmured. Back in the council tower, Elena received Mason's message. Mason, found the source. Voran Safe House, lower sector, grid 9B. Don't alert the council. Trust no one. Her hands trembled slightly as she read it. Around her, alien diplomats still argued about the incident, some accusing humans of faking the attack to gain sympathy. She felt alone in that room full of voices, except for Mason somewhere below the city hunting in the dark. In the tunnels, Mason moved deeper. The path narrowed, filled with steam and dripping pipes. His visor scanned for movement, mapping the area in 3D. Suddenly, the drone ahead flickered. Signal lost. He froze. From the shadows, a deep mechanical hum began to rise. Then a movement. 4 armored figures stepped out of the dark. They were Voran hunters, larger than normal soldiers. their armor painted black and red. Each carried heavy plasma rifles and curved blades at their sides. Their leader, a tall one with glowing red eyes, spoke in rough galactic standard. "You should not have come here, human." Mason's voice was calm. "You've been trying to kill my envoy. I couldn't just sit and wait." The Voran leader's claws clicked against his weapon. "You think you can stop us alone?" Mason tilted his head slightly. "I don't think." "I know." Before the alien could reply, Mason fired first. His first shot hit a power cell on one of their rifles, exploding in a flash of blue light. Mason used the distraction to roll behind a crate, switching to burst fire mode. Plasma bolts flew through the air, burning holes in the metal walls. He moved fast, low, quiet, efficient. Years of battlefield experience guided every motion. He didn't waste a single shot. When one of the hunters tried to flank him, Mason threw a smoke charge and moved behind, hitting the alien's armor joint with a precise shot. The hunter fell with a heavy crash. The leader roared, charging forward. Mason ducked behind cover as a plasma bolt struck the wall beside him, melting the metal. He waited. 1 second, 2 seconds, then rolled out and fired again. This time his shot hit true. The Voran leader's weapon exploded, sending sparks across the tunnel. The alien stumbled but still rushed at him, drawing a curved blade. Mason caught the strike with his forearm guard and countered with a quick hit to the creature's throat. The alien fell, gasping. Mason stood still for a moment, breathing slowly. His armor smoked from the heat, but he was unharmed. He looked around at the fallen hunters and whispered, "I told you. I don't miss." After gathering what evidence he could, Mason found a hidden control station inside the tunnel, a small computer with Voran markings. The screen displayed coded messages, including one signed with a name, Lord Kelvrax, the same Voran leader who had sat in the council hall pretending innocence. Mason uploaded the data to his wrist device. "That's enough proof," he said softly. Then his communicator beeped. Elena's voice, calm but urgent. "Mason, are you all right? The council wants to question us both." "I'm fine," he replied. "And I have what we need to end this." "Proof?" she asked. "Proof," he confirmed. "But we'll need to be smart. They have allies inside the council." Elena nodded to herself. "Then we'll use their own rules against them." That night, Mason returned quietly to the tower. His armor was scorched, his movements slow but steady. When he entered Elena's suite, she stood waiting, dressed in her formal uniform again. "You found them?" she said softly. He nodded, handing her the data chip. "Enough evidence to show the entire council who's behind this." Kelvrax ordered it all. Elena looked at the chip, her eyes determined. "Then tomorrow we show the truth." Mason adjusted his wrist device again, scanning the room for any listening bugs. "Be careful what you say tonight." "They might still be listening," she smiled faintly. "Then let them hear this. Humans don't give up." Mason almost smiled back. "That's the truth." In the quiet hours before dawn, Mason sat alone by the window, watching the alien city glow under its artificial stars. He replayed the fights in his mind, every movement, every sound. He wasn't proud of the violence, but he knew it was necessary. He thought of Earth, of how far they had come from their blue world to this shining alien capital. And yet some things never changed. Humanity still had to fight for its place just like always. Behind him, Elena's voice broke the silence. "Do you ever wonder if they'll understand us one day?" Mason didn't turn. "Maybe, but until then they'll remember this. Earth may speak softly, but we stand ready." The lights from the city reflected in his eyes like distant stars. He holstered his weapon, calm once again, ready for whatever came next. Tomorrow, they would walk into the council chamber with the truth in their hands, and Mason Drake, the human bodyguard who never missed, would be standing right behind her.